Yeah, looking for blood on the street. Hard bondage. They put our children in hard bondage. Hard bondage. Hard bondage. Hard bondage. They put our children in hard bondage.
The Jews, in order to avert the danger which threatened them, offered to supply Ferdinand with 30,000 pieces of silver to carry on the war against Granada. They promised to live peaceably, to comply with the regulations formed for them, in retiring to their houses in the quarters assigned to them before night, and in renouncing all professions which were reserved for the Christians. Ferdinand and Isabella were willing to listen to these propositions, but Torquemada, being informed of their inclinations, had the boldness to appear before them with a crucifix in his hand, and to address them in these words: Judas sold his master for 30 pieces of silver, your highnesses are about to do the same for 30,000, behold him, take him, and hasten to self him. The fanaticism of the Dominican wrought a sudden change in the minds of the sovereigns, and they issued a decree on the 31st of March 1492, by which all the Jews were compelled to quit Spain before the 31st of July ensuing, on pain of death, and the confiscation of their property. The decree also prohibited Christians from receiving them into their houses after that period. They were permitted to sell their stock, to carry away their furniture and other effects, except gold and silver, for which they were to accept letters of change, or any merchandise not prohibited. Torquemada commissioned all preachers to exhort them to receive baptism, and remain in the kingdom. A small number suffered themselves to be persuaded, the rest sold their goods at so low a price, that Andrew Bernaldez, a contemporary historian, declares, in his History of the Catholic Kings, that he saw the Jews give a house for an ass, and a vineyard for a small quantity of cloth or linen. According to Mariana, 800,000 Jews quitted Spain, and if the Moors, who emigrated to Africa, and the Christians who settled in the New World, are added to the number, we shall find that Ferdinand and Isabella lost, through these cruel measures, 2 millions of subjects. Bernaldez affirms, that the Jews carried a quantity of gold with them, concealed in their garments and saddles, and even in their intestines, for they reduced the ducats into small pieces, and swallowed them. A great number afterwards returned to Spain, and received baptism. Some returned from the kingdom of Fez, where the Moors had seized their money and effects, and even killed the women, to take the gold which they expected to find within them. These cruelties can only be attributed to the fanaticism of Torquemada, to the avarice and superstition of Ferdinand, and to the inconsiderate zeal of Isabella, who, nevertheless, possessed great gentleness of character, and an enlightened mind. The other European courts were not thus influenced by fanaticism. Attention to a bull of Innocent VIII.
Right, so the Lord said, who will rise up against me, against the evildoers, man? Right. So our job is to come out and to rebuke it, man. Alright, to pull our people out of the fire, to warn you, man. To blow up the trumpet, that you're living in the last days, man. That fire is going to come and burn America up off the face of the earth, man. Shema Mashiach Yahawah, man. Alright, and how is that going to happen? These things are going to happen through the awakening of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. This is the biggest fear of your enemies, man. The so-called white men in the nations, they are all confederate against you. To keep you asleep. Okay, keep you from knowing the truth, man. Alright, but the truth is out, man. Nothing can stop it. Read this.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 28, verse 8. The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war.
So our job is to prophesy war, man. Alright, the Lord is raising us up in these last days, man, to prophesy of wars. Okay, so we talk about the wars that are coming, man. There's a war that is going to start that you're going to need a higher power to deliver you from.
Right.
It will be impossible for you to survive thermonuclear fire without the Most High God, man. Right. And His Son. And the Lord has set it up that way. That's why it's very important for you so-called black man. Everybody's not gonna die in the lake of fire, man. Right. Some people gonna starve out, man. Some people gonna get stabbed to death, man. Right. Right? Some people gonna watch their children die, man. Right. Right? Some people gonna eat their children, man. Right. And then they gonna get eaten, man. Right? Women are gonna be getting raped in the streets, man. Your police force is going away, man. Your stores are gonna be closed, man. Who are you gonna call? Who's gonna save you then, man? It's not gonna be no more drugs, man. You won't have access to cigarettes, man. There won't be no bars open, man, in that day, man. Right. America is going to completely shut down, man. Right. Famine is coming into the land, man. Death, destruction, man. Read it.
Verse 9, the prophet which prophesied of peace, when the word of the prophet shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known that the Lord hath truly sent him.
Now, in these days coming up, we have to understand, too, as men of the Lord, man, what does that mean for us? You have to endure, man. You have to be serious about this truth, man. You got to gird up your loins in these last days, man. Prayer and fasting should be at an all-time high, man. Right. Straight up, man. If you're not praying and fasting, man, I'm telling you right now, you're not going to make it, man. Right. All right, unless the Lord be alive, man. And the Lord said they don't need to fast while the groom is with them, man. But those days shall come when the groom is not with them, and they shall fast many days, man. Right. Right, read this, because we filthy, man. We got all type of demons and all type of wickedness that's sown in us, man. And the only way to get it is by prayer and by fasting, man.
Same thing, same thing. 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 Egypt to America. Egypt to America. Egypt to America. Egypt to America. Same thing, same thing. 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 Same thing.
The Book of Exodus, Chapter 1. Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. For Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass, that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters, to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
Same thing, same thing. Same thing, same thing. Same thing, same thing. Same thing, same thing, same thing, same thing, same thing. From Egypt to America. From Egypt to America. Egypt to America. Same thing, same thing. Same thing, same thing. Same thing, same thing. Same thing, same thing, same thing, same thing, same thing.
And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, When ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives, and said unto them, Why have ye done this thing?